God is so willing to bless you. Pray for it more than you worry about it. Talk to him directly. Envision the outcome you hope and bring that outcome to him instead of bringing your doubts and I don't want this to happen or I don't want this person I love to make these choices. Take to him what you want to have happen. He's not bothered. He loves you. He wants to be a part of your life. Hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode of the Lizzy Jensen Show. Sadly, this episode marks the end of season 2. We are 80 episodes in today, 40 episodes in on season 1, 40 episodes in on season 2, and I'm going to be taking a break on new recording for the summer, which comes at a great time for me. Those of you who have been listening into the last few episodes know that we are expecting baby number 6, which is crazy. And having this summer to be thinking about what's coming and make some plans and just kind of think through things with a clear mind is going to be really good for me, but I will miss recording in a major way. But a fun announcement I will be sharing is that the content will continue here on the Lizzy Jensen Show. We are going to be taking some of the best content from the last 2 seasons and repurposing it to create stuff that you are going to love. I know a lot of you have just been joining in on season 2 and have missed a lot of my best episodes on season 1, but we are going through the most listened, the most liked parts and making sure that you get those in a condensed format, shorter episode style, so that you get the best of what I've produced so far this summer. So that's going to be really fun. And I'm so happy that we can still make that work while I'm digging in the trenches and thinking through what's coming next for all of you and for me. So speaking of baby, I'm going to give a few little updates because I've had a lot of questions on social media. I'll answer some of those. And then the remainder of this episode, I'm going to do something a little different. In parts of season 1 and season 2, I ended with asking the question, what do you want your legacy to be? As I was preparing today's episode, that's what I felt to share with you today. What is top of mind? What do I care most about? And what is God really pressing on my heart right now that I want to make sure if you hear anything from me, you know these things. It was a little morbid, but I didn't mean it to be when I was prepping this episode. Like, what if I didn't come back? Not that I died. That was actually what I was about to say. But what if I just didn't come back for season 3? What do I want to make sure you as listeners know from me and what matters most from me? So we'll jump into that after, but going to answer a couple questions about this pregnancy and baby. And actually had some interesting feedback. As you know, if you listened a couple episodes ago, I put out a survey just wanting to get a lot of feedback from you guys, which I'm going to actually put in the show notes of this episode as well. I would love to hear from you on how you want the Lizzy Jensen Show and brand to best help you. And I got some great feedback, but I had one comment that I also have had on Instagram that said, I just wish that we knew you better. I wish you would be even more open and let us see like sneak peeks into your home and to your life and how you think about things. And I know a few things about you, but I feel like I don't know you as well as I want, which I was so flattered. I was like, I don't feel like there's that many interesting things. I would be probably the most boring reality TV show, but in the spirit of some of those comments and really the flood of kindness and responses and just really the most generous welcome to this pregnancy announcement for us, I wanted to share a little bit of the behind the scenes on that. And again, just a thank you. We shared a really personal, sweet episode with my mom, where at the end of that episode, I announced our pregnancy to her, and there were just so many of you that were so kind and sweet and took the time to tell us congratulations and to wish us well and hope that everything goes really well in this pregnancy, but really just to rejoice with us and to be so happy about our news. And it's pretty humbling and just like overwhelming to think that people that you don't totally know their story and they don't totally know your story and they just are so happy for your happy news. That's a really, really special thing. So thank you for being so excited for us. We are so excited. And some of you have been asking questions, trying not to be nosy about this pregnancy and knowing I'm a little older and knowing that we have a gap or not even totally knowing those things and wanting to know more about the thought process behind this pregnancy. And so I want to be real and vulnerable and just really raw here. So I am 42. Which according to doctors, if you go in for pregnancy, that's geriatric. I think it's geriatric like in your late 30s anyway. So I already had passed that mark. And a lot of you in person have asked, was this planned? Were you wanting to have another baby? And actually we have been trying for years to have a baby. So this was hoped for a long time. Planned is funny because how much can you totally control? But we had been trying for a while and then decided this thought of having a baby wouldn't leave us. And so actually went the IVF route this time, which I hadn't done in earlier pregnancies. We hadn't ever gone down that path. And it worked. And we feel so grateful at 42 and even younger. I know a lot of times that's not always the outcome. And so we're able to have this pregnancy. We have a little boy joining us in January. So I'm just ending the first trimester. I'll take most of the second trimester off of new recordings. So when I come back at you in the fall, early September with the next season, I will be heading shortly into trimester 3, which is just bizarre and so exciting. How do I feel this pregnancy versus other pregnancies? It's not apples to apples. I think one, because of age, obviously we have an 8-year gap in January. Our youngest currently will be 8 when this baby is born. And so obviously I'm a lot older than I was. It feels like though the IVF hormones and all of that has probably made this a lot harder than prior pregnancies, but not doable. I have friends and women I love so much that just really have to give their all every time they have a baby. And it's been mostly doable. This last weekend was really hard. And I was like, man, I don't even think I can record. I had to cancel a few things over the weekend, which I hate to do. But then I got to go off the hormones, off the progesterone, and I am feeling night and day better and able to work out. And so, it's just different. I think every pregnancy we know is a little different. Even now I'm feeling like, who even cares? Why am I being so personal? So for those of you who want to get to know me better, I hope this is fun to hear. It feels so funny talking about personal things, but we love to hear from the people that we love. And so it is fun to share all these things with you. We are so excited. Obviously, if we've been trying for years, that's like a good sign. We're really, really happy about this pregnancy. And some people have asked, like, did you just know that God had another baby for you? Like, what made you want to have this baby and kind of, in a way, start parenthood over with diapers and with sleepless nights and all the things that we have in large part graduated from to this point in our parenthood. And really, and I've pondered over this a lot and felt like I need to share this online and, whether through the podcast or on socials, that it really wasn't God saying there's another baby or you have to have this baby. It strictly was like, this is what makes us happiest in our lives. We have so much joy being parents, and it's like my happiest thing. Truly the thing that brings me the most joy and just the most happiness and the most laughter of everything that I do. My kids are my best friends. I love the time I get to spend with them. I got to work at their school for 4 years as co-director at Slope School, their micro school that they go to. And it was the best, like spending every day and seeing them learn and grow and being close to everything they were doing is just a huge gift. So really joy was the leader on this. And I know every time you share something, especially something like parenthood and having kids, there's so many people like, I can't, or that's really hurtful, or it's hard for me to find joy. And hopefully I have opportunities in season 3 to talk more about that, like what brings me joy, how I find joy in motherhood, and maybe helping some of you who are like, man, this is so much harder than I thought it was going to be. And it is hard. And it doesn't mean that it hasn't been hard for us and for me, but maybe I can share a little bit about that. And also, if you haven't listened to my episode with my mom yet, 2 episodes ago, I would highly recommend that. She gave such beautiful, authentic advice on how she fell in love with motherhood and really, I would say, blossomed as a woman, as a mother. And so that would be an episode that right now I would go listen to for sure. I had so much feedback on that episode of women crying in their showers and feeling so validated and feeling like this is what I meant to do. And thank you for putting it into words and also giving me advice on how to lean into it even more. But hopefully I can address some of that in upcoming episodes, because I know the road to motherhood is not easy. And the road to loving motherhood isn't always easy and natural for everyone, or just a given, that especially I think for women who maybe haven't seen it modeled in their homes or haven't seen other examples of women outside their own families who just love being a mom and love being home. And so maybe it feels a little bit more unnatural because it hasn't been modeled. And I would love to share some of that if that feels like interesting and helpful. I'm trying to think of other questions I've been asked. I love the people who are like, I promise I'm not like being mean. Can I just ask out of curiosity how old you are? And all these cute questions. I'm like, I'm totally not offended. And even if you are saying it like, and like can't in total shock and surprise and can't believe that I'm as old as I am and still thinking about having a baby, ask away. I don't mind those questions at all, because that means that it must be foreign to you, and maybe I have an opportunity to make you look at life in a little bit of a different way. And so that's so fun for me. I do want to say, did want to be really open in this conversation as well, that just because we're excited and there's all the joy and that's what led to this pregnancy, there's for sure the flip side of things that I've weighed out and thought about, like, is this wise? Is this going to be too hard? Is this going to, and I'm going to say it in just like real terms, like, would this ruin my life? Because life is so much easier when you don't have kids in diapers and when you have more help and all sorts of things, right? With older kids. And those are real questions. I think, especially in an age where, if you listen to last week's episode with Jenna Erickson, which if you haven't, go listen to that episode. She is phenomenal. Every time I hear her speak, she just opens my eyes to truth and to reality and to maybe how backwards we are in our society right now on what brings meaning and happiness and everything. But in a society that tells us individualism matters so much, and that is where our happiness is derived from, and the more we can consume and have for ourselves, that's what will drive happiness. The thought of going back to a baby or having a baby for the first time can feel like, what in the world are we thinking? Like, let's stay independent and let's keep our freedom and all our money for ourselves and our body the way we want it. And there have been questions like, the flexibility and the independence that could be mine right now, next year in January, won't be. And that's real. That's true. And I don't want people thinking I'm maybe so Pollyanna or Mary Poppins about the whole thing, that it's like, those aren't real sacrifices, I guess, in a way. And there was one point, I think my biggest fear, to be honest, and I talked a lot to my husband, Dave, about this, was I feel like coming into my own was so hard for me. I was trying to do the right things and please all the people and figuring out really how to own who I am and what I like and what I want to become was a hard transition in life for me. And not even hard, like owning up to it, but more really getting clear and taking the time to know myself and trust myself and know God and trust God. It felt like I wish that would have happened in high school. And it was more into my 20s and 30s where I grew into that so much more. And I told my husband, I'm just, we have these 3 older daughters. And I think one of my greatest fears was, how can I give them that mentoring and make sure I'm there for them emotionally and enough emotionally, especially my daughters, because I think there's so many more life decisions to navigate, though more and more, I think men have to navigate that complexity as well. And I told my husband, I'm just worried there won't be enough of me to help show them who they are and how to navigate life. And my husband said something so insightful and beautiful that was just really special coming from him as well. Not just because it was a male perspective, but like my husband and the father of my children, it was really sweet to hear from him. But he said, what would impact them more as they think about their roles in the future than actually seeing you be a mother? Like, yes, there's all the roles outside motherhood, which I talk so much about here on the podcast and in our home as well. But what about the actual role of motherhood that I love the most? What would impact them more than seeing me at a time when they will remember it at 14 and 13? My girls will remember how I mothered and how much I loved being a mother and how much those baby stages are a favorite of mine. And when he said that, I thought, man, again, it's so easy for me to forget and let the world kind of creep in or overemphasize all these things that the world says right now about who we are and our identity, when really them watching me mother is going to change their life. It just will. And remembering that. And so it's been a really neat process for me to think through the last, how many ever years that it's been that we've been trying to have this baby, and God just answer prayers and concerns and thoughts one by one. And that's often how it works. sometimes it's one big answer, but often it's knocking off concern by concern or whatever it is. So anyway, feel free to ask me on Instagram if you have more questions. Throughout the summer where I'm not producing more content, I am going to be more active. I've traditionally in the past not loved being online. Probably part of it was just my own confidence and feeling like, who am I and what do I really have to share? And I've loved that community more and more. So if you're not online, don't come on Instagram just to get behind the scenes or to watch the pregnancy or whatever, because it can be a really tricky place, that Instagram, and can usually, maybe more than often, take you from the most important things in life. But if you are there and you like to spend time there and have found a good, healthy place there, I am over there on the Lizzy Jensen Show. So feel free to come pop in and say hi in the DMs, whatever. I'd love to see you there. So that's a little bit about the pregnancy. I'm sure there'll be more updates as we head into season 3, again, over on Instagram. But now I'd love to head into the meat of today's show. Just the 3 things I want you to know and that I'm feeling strongly about and really can witness to in my life at this point at 42. And with where I am, what I can really just say, there's some things I don't know, and there's some things I don't have answers to, and there's some things that I still have yet to experience, right? Like, for those of you in your 20s and your 30s, 40 probably sounds old and like you're already arrived in some ways. But I think that there's a lot more to come and a lot more still for me to experience. But there are a few things that I have seen work over and over and over again that I just want to share today. Okay, the first thing I want you to know, and would be sad if you didn't walk away with from my podcast, is that God is so alive and active. Just like he was in biblical times, he is that active in our lives right now. He cares that much for us. He loves us the same amount as he did in every other age and time. I started making a list as I was preparing for this episode of the miracles I've seen just in the last 2-3 months in this last quarter. And I wanted to share a whole list of them, but as I started writing them out, it was like, it's too many of these are too personal to too many people that I love that I just can't share these. But it is over and over again, I have seen God work miracles in my life and in the life of people I love. But I will add this: if you're not seeing those miracles, don't be down on yourself and don't be sad. There are waiting seasons for reasons, and we learn so much sometimes when God is quiet, and I think he does that on purpose sometimes. You think about Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, there was definitely a reason for that, right? But there are also times when I think God is not as active simply because we don't ask him to be. I have this dear group of friends that we get together and we're very open and we pray for each other. I talked about this in the episode, the panel on small groups. I have this just life-changing small group that has been such a gift and a blessing in my life. And something that I've realized as we've gotten together, it's probably been over a year at this point, is we're really active in praying for each other's lives. Maybe more active than I've ever seen a group be. And we're specific in our prayers and we follow up and we want to hear how things are going for each other. And something that I've realized is that more miracles happen. And I think a big part of that is because we're petitioning God and we're asking and we're praying more. I think we leave too many miracles on the table because we worry more about them rather than ask God and petition him about them. I'm going to give a specific example, which is very personal and hopefully not inappropriate or uncomfortable. I think it's a good example, and this is in motherhood. So we recently took a trip to Japan as a family, and everything but the pregnancy nausea and Japanese food was unbelievable. I'm actually on socials going to share what I learned from the Japanese people, and some of it I'm even going to share like the words they have that we don't, that I think are part of the reason why they are just so exceptional. They actually have terms for things that they embody that we don't even have words for in English. Anyway, you can look for that on socials. But on the trip back on the airplane, we were a little bit split up into a couple different groups. And one of my girls saw something on a screen a couple rows ahead of her. It was like Scream 7 or something, some horror movie. And she's like, I wasn't even watching it, but just like stuff kept popping up that she kept seeing. And we've been home for about a week now. And she is just like having these, as she's trying to go to bed, having these little scenes flash up in her mind, and she's terrified. And as an aside, I think if anyone wants to take on petitioning airlines to start editing movies again, I would sign that petition and blast it from the rooftops so fast. They used to edit all their movies. I feel like every commercial flight we go on, when I bring our kids on flights right now, every time one of us gets blitzed by something we would prefer not to see that are totally inappropriate for kids to see. So if anyone wants to take that on as their cause right now, I would love to support you. But this happened on the airplane, right? And sometimes I'll even be sitting with my kids and I'm like, oh my gosh, I know this movie. I know there's scenes in this movie, and I'll like put a pillow up in between chairs, and I'm like having to navigate, making cubicles around them. And it's just like, there's some stuff, sorry, a 7-year-old just doesn't need to see scenes like that, right? So rant over, that happened on the airplane. And for the past week, she has just had the roughest time falling asleep and coming into my room, and like her heart is just pounding. And she's like, the only thing that will help is sleeping with you and dad, what she's been doing. But she was heading out to a camp out. And the night before she came in, again, heart racing, just hating this whole experience. And I'm like, man, what do I do? Like, anxiety is real. Is this going to, my mind then is it's like, in the middle of the night or right before I'm falling asleep or I've fallen asleep. It's like, is this going to spiral to other things? And mental health is real. And should I be worried about all this stuff? And then she said, this is so bad. I don't think I can go to this camp, because if I'm with all these other girls and I'm doing the same thing, that's going to be so embarrassing. And who's going to comfort me? And I don't even think I'll be able to fall asleep. And I just sat there and I was like, man, what can I do? And I just had this feeling like, you are a believer in Jesus Christ. You can cast those things out. You have that power because of your faith in Jesus Christ. Ask for the miracle. And so I sat with her and I cast out the devil that was in these thoughts and said, no more, not in our home, not in her mind. And then I gave her a couple of mantras to hold on to act with agency instead of, she kept saying, I can't control it. I can't control it. I'm so scared. And that was what she was repeating in her mind. And I said, what I want you to repeat, and just try this and come in our bed, like stay home from the camp if you need, but repeat, I am strong and I am safe. I am strong and I am safe. And so, we have that experience in prayer and we ask God to step in, and then she repeats these mantras in her mind, and I fall asleep and I wake up in the morning just like, oh, how did it go? She didn't wake me up. Hopefully that's good news. And she said she fell asleep within a few minutes. And it's a really small example, a really like personal example, but what I want us to think more about, and again, if I never get on another episode, what I hope you remember from me is God is so willing to bless you. But pray for it more than you worry about it. Talk to him directly, envision the outcome you hope, and bring that outcome to him instead of bringing your doubts. And I don't want this to happen, or I don't want this person I love to make these choices. Take to him what you want to have happen. Share it in detail. This is what I'm hoping for. I have a quote that I wish I would have thought to bring before, but it talks about the role of women, and we'll put it in the show notes, but it says that the role of women is to shape and mold men to the height of their hopes, to give children and to help them live and to grow, and for spirits to be enabled to live to the height of your hopes as a woman. Now, do we control our kids or our loved ones? Absolutely not. But could we do a better job breathing life into them and asking God to help them fulfill the maximum joy that they can have? I think we can. I think we can worry less and talk to God more and trust him more, including when the miracles haven't come for years, to keep asking and keep trusting and keep believing, and ask him to see your life in the way he wants you to see it and have his perspective. Anyway, drilled this one home enough. I'm just a believer in God and what he can do for our lives. And I hope that if there's something you've been worried about or are worried about right now, that you take it to him and let him step in and trust his power and trust his mighty arm, because he is all powerful and he loves you probably more than you can imagine. The second thing I want to leave as a legacy on this episode, but also just on this whole season, is that I don't want you to underestimate the impact that you can have. We talk a lot about the big things in life, people that have big impact, big influence, big numbers of followers, big things that happen, go on the Today Show, have a best-selling book, but the daily little impacts we can make when we just try to go about and do good, I think we greatly underestimate. An example of this I was thinking about was our decision to have a baby. Now, as the years grew, I guess as the space between our last baby grew longer and longer, I started to kind of think, is this really worth pursuing? And I am getting older. And is this good for my health? And is it good for my family? I mean, all the things I was going back, right? Like some of the things that could lead to fear, or I just don't know. There were probably 10 women who out of the blue, who had no idea what was going on in our life, no idea that we were questioning a baby, would just come and like start sharing very random things with me in conversation with a friend who was then 42, thinking, who just, I think just had her baby or was just getting pregnant, we kind of started talking about babies and being older, and it was really focused more on her. And she just turned and said, like, it's never too late. There is nothing better than having babies, even like no matter how old you are. And I mean, she was so bold and it was so out of the blue. And I just thought it was just one of those little things, but drip by drip, drop by drop in my life, these comments added up and they were answers to things I was asking. There was another one, we were on a trip. This was just recently to Mexico with a bunch of couples, and a bunch of them we hadn't ever met before and spent any time with. And another one, a lady came up and she just completely opened up about their miracle gap baby and told me the whole story in detail, much more detail than you probably generally tell someone who you don't know very well. And at the end, we were on a bus, and at the end I got to my husband, I was like, you'll never believe the story I was just told. She has no idea. We're right now about to enter, or we had already started IVF at that point, and we're just like asking all the questions, right? And do we carry all those through the end? And so again, there was probably 10 of those examples of women just saying the thing at the right time, doing the thing, showing up, not knowing that I was going through something hard with a meal or with a kind word, or I've just been thinking about you, or a text at the right time. I really believe that those are the things, in the grand scheme of things, when we look back, those are the things that change the world much more often than the big things. And I think if we just go about our day looking to uplift people and love people, we can be so much more confident that we're doing God's work and we're exactly where we need to be than sometimes we think we are, or we question, am I making a difference or doing anything of value in the world because I'm just insert whatever, a neighbor, a mom, a friend, a sister, a niece, an aunt. And the things I say don't really make that much difference. But I think of the visual of the Grand Canyon, which was just like drop by drop. And then over thousands of years, this huge canyon was built that you can't reverse at this point, right? You couldn't change the course of that river because it was built so consistently by these little drops. And so if you're, again, in that place, maybe you're asking those questions like, am I making a difference? Does what I'm doing matter? Just keep showing up consistently and you're going to see that pay off in a big way. I hope you already have in some ways, but it will continue to, I promise you, especially in the things that we do in our own home and continuing to show up faithfully, the best that we can, with the most love that we can. Those things will pay off, and those are the things that our kids are going to remember. The last thing I want to leave you with is something I've been thinking a lot about recently, and I hit on this just a little bit on the episode about hearing God's voice, that panel discussion that I loved so much. And I talked about when we come to God daily, how it leads us into the fertile way. And this came directly from a scripture, but we can see this in a lot of different examples in the scriptures of people who were on these journeys, but when they keyed into God, their whole path was led to a more fertile way. Instead of a place that was just wilderness, they were led to a place that had more to offer them. And for those that were in a wilderness, think about the children of Israel, they were given that manna and just what they needed and just enough daily. I hope this doesn't sound boring. I'm like trying to give it the weight and the gravity that I feel like it deserves, because that daily decision to connect with God, I would say of anything that I do, changes me, changes the trajectory of my life, the decisions I make more than anything else. And it usually is in these really small and simple ways. And this is what it typically looks like, but it's happened so frequently that there's just no doubt to me that it's God, because it doesn't happen when I don't connect with God. So it usually starts this way. I have some kind of a morning study, morning prayer. I turn to God. I maybe share my day with him or plan my day. I do that a lot more now in my morning study. I shared this in that episode, how I actually do my morning study, if you want to know the exact formula. But usually there's something that I won't be able to control in that day, or I'm not quite sure how to make it all the pieces fit that I feel like need to fit for the day. And then, I turn it over to him. I say I'm open to cutting things out. I'm also open to just putting it in your hands. And without fail, either my priorities are realigned and it just makes sense to cut something out, or windows will open up, or someone will step in the exact way it needs to have exactly the best, most fertile, most fruitful thing happen. And I'll share the example of today. So woke up, have my study. I kind of write down the things that need to happen. One of which is, finishing planning for this episode. I have some things at our house, some things with my boys because my girls are out of town. And then I have this thing that I want to drop off to a friend. She's leaving to serve for our church for 3 years in another country. And I've had this thing I wanted to get to her. And I know she's so busy and didn't even know she had time, but even if I could just drop it at her house. And so I'm just kind of thinking through, I want to give my best to this episode. I want to share the thing that will be most helpful to those of you listening in. And I just want to make it all work out. And it's just like it always is, this little series of events that I couldn't have controlled or made happen just worked. And again, giving one example might be like, well, that's just like a coincidence and little, and who even cares? That's not like that impressive or big of a thing. But when you think about a lifetime of little things adding up so that you can serve and love and give, and also so you can be served and loved and given to in the way that's just unique for you, think about a lifetime of that, where every day little things happen, where God is directing your path. So what happens, it's like, I don't know, 11:30, 12, something like that. And I'm like trying to get ready, trying to also be totally present with my boys and think through that. And also I have this episode in the back of my mind, and I get a text from the guy, Nate, who's recording my episode. And he's like, hey, what if we push back 15 minutes? And I'm like, that would be amazing. Like, I don't want to ask and infringe, but I could push back more if you want. I actually have an open afternoon. He's like, well, let's even push back 30 minutes. That's better for me. I'm like, that just worked. And then my boys were supposed to go to baseball. I thought it was an hour earlier, realized it wasn't for another hour. Shoot, what am I going to do? Another person, hey, can I come over and do this thing at your house that I needed to work on, someone that I love? And I'm like, yes, my boys were going to be there by themselves. She's like, oh, I'm heading over right now. It was just little thing. It was like these little cogs in a wheel that I couldn't have controlled or figured out. So then I show up to that friend's house because I now have this extra half hour, right? I've got the gift in my hand, but I can't remember which house it is. I've actually never been to her home. So I call someone who knows. This person tells me, but that took me about an extra 10 minutes. And as I figure out the right house, the friend pulls up in her driveway. And we had exactly 5 to 10 minutes to just express how much we loved each other, give her a hug. She just filled me to the brim because she's such a godly woman, And I just thought that timing was just too perfect. It just was too perfect to have been me. I couldn't have orchestrated that. I don't know where she was. I wasn't bugging her, even asking. The chances of me even running into her were slim. I was going to leave it at the door, right? Now, again, this is one small example, but what I want you to recognize and what I want to leave you with this season is that if you don't have a practice of coming to God and bringing your plans to Him and asking for His guidance and direction and help, I would recommend that to you, and I would invite you to try it, and maybe try it for 30 days and say, I don't even know if this is real. I don't even know if this works, but then just start to record the things that happen in your life. I think God is often like the wind in our life, where we don't often see His hand, But we can see the things that he moves and touches if we have our eyes open to it. And if we ask him to intervene and we're open to that. I also think he does it when we want him to. And so again, this is back to point one, like ask more. He's not bothered. He loves you. He wants to be a part of your life. But when you do that every day, you'll start to see things just be more fruitful, to just work out. You'll also see probably some things fail that need to fail, that don't need to be a part of your life. And things get cut out, and maybe some relationships, especially if you're trying this experiment for the first time. And so those are the three things I want to leave with you. And if any of them seem to be pricking your heart or resonating with you, I invite you to experiment over the summer when you don't maybe hear a live recording from me for a little bit. Maybe take the summer and experiment on one of those and think, is there more that I could do to ask for miracles in my life and see for that? Or is there something that I could do to just believe that I'm making more of a difference and trust that the little things I do matter, or maybe do more little things and leave some of the things that don't matter and just go show up and love people and trust that it will make a difference, and text more people or give some phone calls. And if you're already good at that, don't overcorrect on something or overestimate something that you don't need to do. And then third, trust that when you give some time to God and you ask him to help in your life, he will put you on the fruitful path. He will give you that manna. I want to leave with just a couple scriptures that I loved so much to just drive this home. This is from Jeremiah. He says, "But blessed is the one who puts trust in the Lord, whose confidence is in him. They will be like a tree planted by the water that sends out its roots by the stream. It does not fear when heat comes. Its leaves are always green. It has no worries in a year of drought and never fails to bear fruit." That's what it feels like to just keep planting yourself right next to God and right next to that living water. Another one from Isaiah. "The Lord will guide you always. He will satisfy your needs in a sun-scorched land and will strengthen your frame. You will be like a well-watered garden, like a spring whose waters never fail." Another one from John 15, Jesus' words. "I am the vine, you are the branches. The one who remains in me," think about being attached to that vine, "and I in him, bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing." When you're cut off from the vine, you just don't produce anymore, right? You don't have that light and that life in you. I'm going to end with two quotes. This one's from Kristen Yee, who's a leader in my church. She says, "With God, we can prosper in the desert. Without God, even in a fertile land, we ultimately cannot prosper." And then C.S. Lewis, "The thing is to rely on God. The time will come when you will regard all this misery as a small price to pay for having been brought to that dependence. Meanwhile, the trouble is that relying on God has to begin all over again every day as if nothing has been done yet." And I think that's the challenge of life, right? Like we wake up another day and we saw miracles yesterday and we're like, wait, is it still going to work again today? But it will. But you have to do that in a daily way. So I hope something in this episode touched you. I can't believe we're ending 80 episodes. That feels insane to me. We've been quite a journey together. I'm excited to share some of the best of episodes with you this season. Again, if you're interested in shaping the future of the Lizzy Jensen Show and this brand, I would love if you would fill out the survey or just send me a DM on Instagram. Like I would love if we could, I even put a question on there, like what would touch you most if we moved to something outside of this show or in addition to this show, if we did some events and experiences, which I just love because I love all the things that are tangible and hands-on. Are there some products that you feel like would be amazing? Is it small group material? Would you love me to come up with some things that then you could go discuss in a small group? Like I would love your feedback. And the more people I hear from, the more I can make sure this is really shaping something that's of benefit to you. So give me all your feedback. I'm wishing you the best, most present, happiest summer. If you are in a valley season with tough things, I'm hoping that it's fruitful for you. Actually, I have to share this. This is the best quote that I just heard from Billy Graham that I have never heard, that I'm like, where has this been all my life? He said that God gives us vision in the mountaintops and makes us fruitful in the valleys. Again, God gives us vision in the mountaintops and makes us fruitful in the valley. So whether this is a mountain where you're getting vision and you're getting ideas for your life, or you're in the trenches and you're bearing fruit right now, I'm wishing you the best summer. I love summertime. I love being with the kids. I'm just so excited for what's ahead and to think about this show, to think about you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this community. We have a really, really special group of women, and you are a special part of that. So thanks for being here. Until next time, we'll see you again soon.